Let me get that information. And I talked with that financial advisor, and he shows me the account's titled in mom's name. Look, you told me everything was in the trust. What do you mean by in the trust? Oh, God. Hi, Jeff Prasachi, the Plain English Attorney, and welcome to the video. Today we are going to talk about the big probate secret and what attorneys aren't telling you. But first, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment, and share. This is the only thing that's going to help the algorithms get the truth out there. There is so much false information and half truths because there are a lot of attorneys that make an awful lot of money off of cleaning up messy estates. My job is to help you plan right the first time. So let's go ahead and get underway with the story. Unfortunately, people think that revocable living trusts are this big magical entity that you sign it and suddenly everything's fine. And we have to put out a lot of information and we have to counsel our clients clearly. Here's how this works. Here's how a revocable living trust avoids probate. And so we worked with a mother and her daughter. It was the mom's estate, but she was really kind of relying on the daughter to make sure that all of the different details got handled, which is fine. That sometimes happens. So we put together her revocable living trust. And then about a year or two later, the daughter calls and we had permission to talk to the daughter. Look, I need to make sure that everything is all set because I may or may not divorce my husband and I need to make sure he doesn't get anything. It's like, well, he's not going to get anything. Is everything already in the trust? Oh, yeah, everything's already in the trust. Okay, fine. 10 months later, calls again. Hey, look, I really think I'm going to divorce that husband. Can you please reassure me that everything's going to be fine? I said, well, look, is everything in the trust? Well, yeah. Okay. Then you don't have anything to worry about. This happens a couple of times about every 8 or 9 months or so. And then mom passes on, and the daughter's like, yeah, I've left my husband. Mom died. I need to settle this trust. And I went to my financial advisor, and he told me that this has to go into probate. I was like, well, everything's in the trust, and it shouldn't. Let me get that information. And I talked with that financial advisor, and he shows me the account's titled in mom's name. Look, you told me everything was in the trust. What do you mean by in the trust? Oh, God. Okay. So she didn't do anything that we went through. We talked about all of her different accounts and assets for mom. Here's exactly what needs to happen. Didn't do any of it. So, yeah, it all went into probate. About a year later, everything's settled, and she's like, I'm going to go and start this business to warn people that they need to have their assets in their trust, which is what I'd been doing all along. So, all right. So, what exactly is the secret?
If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel.
The thing is, you really have to look at a revocable living trust as if it were a suitcase. And I use this all the time with my clients. We are building you the perfect suitcase for your situation. We're customizing it. We're making it exactly the right dimensions. It's going to be perfectly fine, but we're only building the suitcase. It's up to you to actually pack it. So you can't just say, all right, I've got my suitcase. I'm going on this trip, your final trip. Grab the suitcase, go to the airport, check your luggage, get on the plane, get off, pull your luggage off that carousel and get to the hotel, open it up. There's nothing in it. This suitcase is worthless. It's not the suitcase's fault that you didn't pack it. This is also why with our newsletter for our clients, which you can sign up for just by going to plainenglishattorney.com. You can sign up for the newsletter, get all this good information every week. But we have at least twice a year. We're putting out information on why it's important to fund your revocable living trust. We have entire courses on it, and we're doing videos like this. So, what is the actual secret that a lot of attorneys don't tell you? Because we see this all the time where attorneys will put together a revocable living trust because their clients came to them and said, I want to avoid probate. I heard about this great revocable living trust. Oh, sure, we could do one of those for you. They talk to them once, put all the documents together, send them the drafts. Okay, come in and sign them. And then they hand them this thin little packet somewhere in that paperwork that talks about funding the trust, but they never mention it. They don't focus on it. They don't provide any additional information unless they're actually asked. So, what ends up happening? They pass on, everything is in probate, and they have to do the probate all on its own. And it's another big windfall for the attorneys that set up the trust but didn't do anything to help their clients or discuss with their clients about funding it and making sure it works well. So the actual secret is probate is based on title. So if someone passes on and there are assets that are titled in their name still, all right, well, the probate court has to go run through all the inventories. We've got a three-part video that's out there that really goes into probate and what the process is in North Carolina. And it's similar depending on the state that you go to. And it really is this big rigmarole and a whole bunch of red tape and court processes and procedures that you got to have this inventory. You got to have a copy of the cancel check. You got to have this copy of the invoice. We need to see it line up with the bank statement. Everything needs to be perfect, which means, okay, that all that effort has to go into it. And usually people hire an attorney or they end up with what I call the worst part-time job they're ever going to have. All right. So all that stuff can be avoided if you avoid probate. And so the title has to run through all that stuff before it comes out on the other end and gets retitled in the name of the beneficiaries. So when it really comes down to it, probate is nothing more than a massive, expensive, time consuming, frustrating, and open to the public retitling process. So if you have a revocable living trust and your assets are titled in the revocable living trust, then you're all set. The assets get into the trust. It's not subject to probate. What about pay on death items into the trust? Okay, usually not a big deal when it comes to things like life insurance or IRAs and 401ks, but big issues, especially with control when someone gets incapacitated for bank accounts and stock accounts, brokerage accounts, mutual funds, and things like that. So, yeah, you want to make sure that your bank accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, personal possessions, real estate, all that's titled in the trust. There are some specific reasons why you don't want an IRA or 401k in the trust. Okay, that's a taxable event. Life insurance usually ends up being a lot more difficult to transfer the ownership of the policy into the trust. And usually there's not a reason, but everything needs to be looked at on a case by case basis. But the fact is, again, it comes right back around to how are things titled and trying to make sure that it's not titled in the deceased person's name when they pass on. So here's a second secret concept that you're probably not going to hear from your attorney. And that is when you're talking about avoiding probate, it all needs to be in the trust. But a will only covers what's in probate. And so here's where people try to sneak in these little, well, we've got this duct tape solution of naming a beneficiary or joint with the right of survivorship. The fact is, it really is like, okay, I need this big car repair. Oh, just get a roll of duct tape and it'll take care of it. It'll be fine. Okay. It's kind of a short term solution. So, in using these duct tape solutions and pushing these partial things, it's like, all right, let's go back to that suitcase thing. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you don't need to actually put your toiletry kit into your suitcase. You can shove it in your pocket. Or, hey, yeah, we don't need to do this thing with the bank. You don't need to move the ownership of your bank account. You can kind of stuff it in your jacket pocket and go on the plane with it. It's like, no, look, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing it right. Here's the thing that ends up happening with the last will and testament and the different contingencies. And if you really want to sew this up tight and avoid probate, using the revocable living trust is the way to go. All right, I want everything to go to my three kids equally. If any of my kids passes on, then I want it to go their share, their one third to go down to their children, meaning my grandchildren. And I want to put age limitations in place so they don't get anything outright until 40 unless the trustee distributes it early. Okay, well, hey, you can just name your life insurance to your three kids equally per stirpe. So if one of your kids dies, it goes down to the grandkids. Oh, well, that's exactly what I want. All right, how old are your kids? Well, they're in their mid 30s. How old are the kids? Oh, they're 5 and 7. All right, one of your kids passes on, then you pass on. 1/3 of your life insurance is going to those grandkids of your deceased child at age 18. But wait a minute, my will said it has to be 40. Well, no, it didn't go into probate. The life insurance beneficiary designation avoided probate. And so those kids get all that money early. If instead it went to the trust, then the trustee can divide everything up and have control over that. If you're not doing a trust and you're going to do a will, well, all right, your life insurance needs to go to your estate. This is one of those things you got to decide. Do you want it in probate and have it get controlled by the will and have those limitations and control over potential grandchildren? Or do you want everything to avoid probate as much as possible? All right, we're going to use the revocable living trust as the base of a plan. So let's talk about another story where this actually worked out. Now, this wasn't one of my clients. It's part of a network that I'm in. The attorney actually passed on, but there was a financial advisor who was integral in this, the same way we have our asset coordinator for the law firm who can be integral to the process if my clients want that. We had everything lined up. They came in, they sat down. It was the brother and his two sisters. The brother was the trustee, and everything was all laid out by that financial advisor. Yeah, here the house was in the trust. All these accounts were in the trust. The life insurance was in the trust. I think they had just a minimal amount that was in IRAs or 401ks that went to the kids directly for tax purposes, and that kind of worked out. It's like, all right, so right. So they said that we need to see you because of the real estate, because they needed to go through their different options and what they needed to do. It's like, well, okay, you got a couple of options. One, you could have your trustee, the brother, just sell the house because that was the intention. They wanted to sell the house. They weren't going to hang on to it and keep it in the family and do anything with that. So, okay, brother could sell the house. Or we can distribute it to the three of you, and then you can decide what to do, and then you can sell it or keep it or do whatever you want between it. But here's the thing, if it gets to the three of you, because at that point the housing market wasn't great, you can decide, all right, look, it's not great, it's not selling, we're going to rent it out for a year or two. Or it's among the three of you. It means three of you are going to have paperwork you need to sign, but the trust is closed. Or, well, it can stay in the trust. And now your brother can run it. However, the trust is going to need a tax return and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, well, no, we want it to go to the three of us. So, all right, come back in a week. We set an appointment. That was the first available. It had the deed going from the trust out to the three beneficiaries. It's like, all right, signed it. Well, okay, we'll take care of the recording. All right, well, what's next? Well, what do you mean, what's next? Well, okay, the deed's done. What else do we need to do? That's it. Well, that's it for the house. But what else do we need to do to settle the estate? I'm like, did the financial advisor already transfer the accounts to you? Yeah. The house was the last thing in the trust. Just went to the three of you. It's done. You're talking with an accountant about the taxes? Yeah. You're done. They were so shocked that it was so easy. But that's what can happen if you do it correctly with the revocable living trust and you make sure title is looked at and things are lined up the right way. So this isn't just some secret that you tell once. It's something that you need to have reinforced over time, and you need to make sure that that suitcase stays packed. All right. So I hope you found that information useful. As I said before, please like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who needs it. We need to beat the algorithms with all the false and half truths information that's out there so that people who are planning their estate can get it done the right way and maintain it. So, as I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life. And whatever you do, make it a great day.